So when I got home, it was way too hot to touch. So I gave it some time to cool down, and here's how it looks after about 600 rounds through it. The gas piston and plug are kind of a mess. The barrel and gas system burned off all the oil. The back end, you can still see the oil on it. Still see the oil in the trigger group. Still see oil on the bolt. The only thing to note in the back is there's some brass shavings. Brass shavings inside the receiver and near the chamber. Obviously didn't affect function, but something to note. That's the bulk of how dirty it is after 600. Took a little effort to get the gas system apart, but not too bad. Worked great. Alright, so I got her wiped off a little bit. This T97 is a 13 starting serial number, so I believe from 2013. This one has probably around 5,000 rounds through it. So while I was at it, I figured I would quickly go over what is showing some wear, if any of it matters, that kind of thing. So here's the cleaned up gas system parts. So that variance in coating is right from factory. So there's a little bit of staining. Not a big deal. Cleans up real nice. This end, which was black, you can see is starting to show some wear. Hasn't made any difference. Here's the gas plug. A little bit of staining, but no issues. Spring, just fine. Rear takedown pin. A little bit of wear around each side. And to be honest, it just makes it a little bit easier to take down. So far, no problem. Here's the factory safety, which at this point doesn't get much use with the lower handguard, but there is a bit of wear just where it spins around in the receiver. Alright, trigger group. So right in here is where the safety rides, so some wear there. And then when you pull the trigger, that's what happens. So you get a little bit of wear here where you're dropping your linear hammer or striker. This goes up back here. So every time it goes, it has to slide over that and push it down. So wear there, obvious. This is the trigger bar. So this goes from the trigger up to, or back to the trigger group. So there's a little bit of wear right there where it's riding in the receiver. And then on the other side, there's a little bit right beside where the trigger group is. Striker spring, no issues. The rod inside the linear hammer is losing some of its finish. All the way down, you can see it. The linear hammer itself has some wear on the side there. And then on the face of it, you can see where the striker hits. So the middle part, firing pin, all around that is onto the bolt carrier. Then the little tabs down here is for each side of the trigger. So one is the one that drops the striker or linear hammer. The other side is the semi-auto disconnect. Just the little knob that goes on top of the spring. This rides in the back of the receiver. So a little bit worn there, but not going to cause an issue. Mainspring, this is the old style. Now they have a braided one, but this one hasn't been any problems. Here's the bolt. So it's not perfectly cleaned, but somewhere on the front there, a little bit on the side, and then its pivot, so that's what causes it to rotate to lock. That has a little bit of wear. And then inside, there's a little bit of wear right here, and then all the way around there's a little bit. So this is spinning inside of the bolt carrier to lock up the action. So makes sense. Here's the bolt carrier. So it ends up with some wear on the actual rails. Not too bad. You can see where the linear hammer hits it. Same kind of pattern. Inside there's a little bit from where the bolt is rotating. On the front, where it stops to let the bolt go forward, there's a little bit. And on the front here, when you're pulling the charging handle back, there's a little bit there. Now on the receiver itself, where the rail rides, or striker and bolt carrier, everything rides, it's obviously a wear point there. Back, everything looks fine. The pin here is about the same as the other one. As it wore, it got a little bit easier to push it out. You can see on the feed ramps, there's little marks where the tip of each bullet goes. Not a big deal. Right here, it's hard to see. That part sticking out there on the back of the receiver is where the bolt carrier hits. So that's where that mark of wear was from. A little bit of marks around where the pins go. And then if you can see up inside, so that's the guide rod for the bolt carrier. And that is getting somewhere just where it rides the whole time. Everything else looks fine. I haven't had any issues with the custom muzzle brake on there. It's a little dirty, but the lower handguard from T97.ca has been zero problem. There's the trigger assembly. Gets little flakes in it. It gets really hot, but no issues yet. The polymer part has had no problems at all. Perfect, like brand new. All nice and back together.